Hello, this is Erin again here today to share with you one of our activities that we did with our students this week during our last week of our stocks unit. This is actually the first time we've ever done anything like this, and we feel like we could go a lot further with it, but this isn't the year for it. We'll take it a little bit another step next year. But we started by talking about what it means to diversify your stock holdings. I shared this blank sheet with my students, and I had them, look it up and think about it and discuss it. And then we defined it as the technique that reduces your risk by having investments in different types of companies, so that if there were to be an event that was going to affect a certain industry, all of your stocks aren't going to be affected by that. So kids grasp that really quickly. I use the example, you don't want to buy all stocks in all clothing companies and all, or all gas stations, or so they get that. So from there, we had them each pick 4 stocks that they were going to pretend to buy. We were going to have them pretend to buy $10,000 of each stock, and the 4 stocks had to be from different industries. So when they did that, we shared this sheet with them, and we had all of the formulas in here. You could have them copy and paste them from an old percent change calculator sheet, or have them come up with them themselves. This year, my students don't seem to be as strong at creating Excel cells or sheet cells that will calculate things by converting a formula into sheets. They're just not real great with their formulas this year. So that's one way you could also differentiate in your class. Maybe you give some kids the formulas and maybe some kids build it themselves. But basically we shared this where we have 4 calculators, and they have to put the name of the stock here. For my example, and I don't have my example up here, but in my example that I did with them, I chose Sprint, Dunkin' Donuts, The Gap, and Ford Motor Company. And so what we had them do was look up the stock price at the moment, and they had to put it in here. And they watched the stock for the remainder of the period while we discussed some things, and they were just watching their stock go up and down. And at the end of the period, we had them type the price, and we were able to see what the percent of change is in the beginning to the end just during that short time period, and how much they profited or lost of their $10,000 investment based on that. And then here is the total, the combined profit or loss overall. Then what we told them was we are going to track these stocks all week long, and I called it a stocks profit loss contest. And every day I had them record their new percent of change into another sheet, which I'll show you in a moment. But one thing that you have to make sure is that they understand that beginning value is never changing. That's the price that they typed in from when they very first looked up that stock. They'll pretend they bought it at that moment at that price. So the beginning's never changing. The end is what changes. So this is the sheet I shared with them, and this is the blank copy that's ready to go. All the formulas work, the conditional formatting is there. I'll show you my example. So basically each day they would just type their profit or loss in here, and then we have an average. Now what I did was I made it a little contest. First of all, I made it so it's an assignment that it's going to count, and they get a point for every day that they put in their information. And I also recorded who had the most profit and who had the most loss each day, and I gave 2 bonus points for the winner with the highest profit, and I gave a consolation prize point to the person who had the most loss. And the same goes for the average at the end of the week. So this is going to make a lot more sense if you look at my example. I blacked out my names, except for mine at the top. I was playing along too, although I have to get my other dates in. But how I formatted it, and we went over conditional formatting with you a few weeks ago, I formatted these cells so that if it was a positive number, it would show up in green, and if it was a negative number, it would show up in red. I think that visually is just so helpful. I know it was definitely helpful for me when I was trying to record who was the winner of the highest profit and the winner of the highest loss every day, because I could look at the different colors. So ways we thought we could take this further. I was thinking, my kids, when I told them it was a contest, were upset with me because they said, well, if I knew it was a contest, I would have picked different stocks. I just chose random stocks. So maybe I would tell them ahead of time that it was a contest. Or Dave and I were talking about how maybe next year what we can do is we can then allow them to reinvest this money that they have. Going back to the first sheet that I shared with you, if they've got a profit here of $12,000, then they can take that $12,000, they can sell that stock and invest it in a different stock. And this could be an ongoing project. I think we've said before that in years past, we've really wanted to do an ongoing stocks project, but just haven't found a way to make it useful, engaging, and at the same time, not incredibly difficult and time consuming for us to plan, grade, and keep track of. So that is our diversification of stocks activity that we did. Thanks so much for participating in our class. If you've got any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you.